Welcome to BRIT'S Tips. I am Brittany and I give tips on everything to do with managing children. I have a lot of experience in the field and I have two children of my own, two little ones. Go check out more of my content to see different things that I talk about, different things that I share. Today's tip is BRIT'S tip number 28. Are you struggling with sleep training? Well, so am I. Me too. And I just wanted to share this just as a vulnerable, more like a vulnerable conversation from me to whoever's out there in that internet world. It doesn't have to just be moms. It doesn't have to just be dads. Um, if you have an infant that you're responsible for at all, and you're dealing with sleep training, this could even be in a school environment actually, because children do need to be sleep trained. Um, you may be approaching this topic. So, just sharing a little bit of where my husband and I are. Our son Quest is 10 months old. So, everything you're going to read about sleep training, and just to back up a little bit, sleep training is when basically you help the baby get to a point where they sleep independently, right? So everybody feels completely like people feel very differently about this. I have some relatives who are like, the idea of putting a baby to sleep in a crib in another room, they think that that's like crazy. Like they're like, oh, who does that? I don't know. There's a lot of like stereotypes, or maybe I shouldn't say stereotypes, but there's a lot of I don't know, preconceived notions of what it is to have a baby not sleeping in the room with you. People say things about the baby sleeping down the hall. So there are some people and some cultures who keep the baby with them in the room, in the bed for a very long time. To each his own. I am not sitting here on any high horse telling anybody what to do. I'm actually sitting here just sharing my truth, which is that oh my God. When you have a baby who is not sleeping, it is so hard. Parenting as a whole is just it's just a hard thing. You come into it with these expectations, whether you realize it or not. But I think we all think that having a baby, this cute little human that you dress up, is going to be a certain way. And then when you realize the day to day, like how demanding it is, how restricting to your freedom to do the things you want to do, I just feel like I do not see how people don't like all have some semblance of feeling this way. Now, there's pros and cons to everything. And of course, there is a massive blessing. But going back to what I'm talking about with sleep training. So, our son is 10 months old. And if you do any research about sleep training, you'll see that all experts, everyone in this field, they always say you should start between 4 and 6 months, right? So, Quest, when he came home from the hospital, he was sleeping in our room in his bassinet next to my bed. So, another part of this component is that I'm a breastfeeding mother, right? So, when he would wake up at night, I would take him out the bassinet and just let him breastfeed, roll him back in there, and I would go to sleep. So, like, we weren't having any of these issues really, right? So, maybe like 3 months ago, maybe around that time, we were like, that's it, you need to go in your room, Quest. Like, this is a little much, grow up, get on out of here. So we booted him into his nursery. He has like a nice nursery. And so since then, right, since he's been in his room, he wakes up through the night. So once again, he just now turned 10 months old. So he is super old. Here I am giving parent advice. And I have a 10-month-old who's not sleeping through, or like, we didn't fully approach sleep training or master it yet. But I am here to say, I really just want to say this. I'm not really like, giving advice on what method I think people should use. And by the way, there's a lot of different ones. They got the Ferber method, where it's like you check and console the kid. The cry it out method, where you let them cry till they're okay. The chair method, where you sit in a chair and you don't pick them up when they cry or anything. Like you just let them cry. And like basically it's kind of like you slowly move the chair out of the room. You have the pick it up, put down method. There's a lot of different ways you can choose to try to approach sleep training. I'm not here to judge, and I'm not here to put a stamp of approval on any of them. I'm here to say that is hard. I guess I can just speak to the women, because all I can say is I'm a woman. there are scenarios, right? There are times when like I know in my mind I should just maybe be letting Quest cry. Like he'll be okay, like let him cry, he's going to fall asleep. But there are times like where I'm trying to do that and emotionally I'm just not okay. And that's kind of really what I wanted to talk about, was the emotional impact of what it is to have your baby crying. And I mean that for everything, but specifically something like this. So you're trying to sleep train. The point of that is so you can, you and your spouse, or just you, whatever, so you can have some sleep, so you can wake up and be refreshed and everything. And a lot of people, most people without their sleep, they're just not themselves. So what I'm really just trying to get at is I feel like the emotional impact of your child being kind of in distress ultimately is what it is. Like your child is crying, depending on the type of kid you have, but most babies are going to be crying and very upset through this process. So I'm just here to provide affirmation, just to say to you, parents, people, caregivers who are going through this and who are having a really hard time, it's okay, it's normal. To feel like traumatized by having to sleep train your baby. Don't feel like you're weird or you're reading these blogs and these moms are like, oh, oh, I did this and in 3 days I saw old Samantha make a change. Good thing for Samantha. Maybe your baby has been screaming and you've been trying to be consistent, and maybe, your baby's been screaming for 3 weeks straight and you're not seeing improvement. Um, every child is different. Every parent is different and every person is different. So please do not feel shamed by this internet world, because that's what happens. People judge you. Unfortunately, sometimes it can even be your spouse, your partner, who, like let's just say they want to be consistent with whatever method you're choosing to use. And you're in a place where like emotionally you're not ready to do that. Like I said, ultimately, whatever you're choosing, the baby generally is going to be upset on some level. You'll have the baby being upset, and on some level, you kind of have to let them self soothe. And that is true. I do believe in that. Like, as an educator, yeah, you can't have a child who's completely unable to self soothe. I'm just speaking to the emotional impact of the person and people who are having to do that. There is real trauma in having to listen to your baby cry. And just how much that affects you, like there's no telling how much that may be affecting you, and there's no judgment for that. There's a place for being low-key emotionally devastated by having to just listen. Like the instinct for, most mothers per se, is you hear your baby crying, right? You have that instinctual internal like alarm just going off in you. Any mother, any woman, you know what I'm talking about. It's like this internal thing just clicks as soon as they start, if they're worked up. And what you want, I feel like God made us to do, is to make it better. What's wrong, right? They're triggered, the kid's going off. Okay, our job is to figure what's wrong with them. Are they hungry? Are they hurt? You do learn to gauge their cries, like when they're really upset because they're whining, maybe they're tired, or when they've gotten hurt, if they're in pain. When you're with the child all the time, you do get to learn those cries. But what I'm saying once again is that when you're having to listen to them cry, specifically with sleep training, typically it's because they're in a level of distress, which is that they want comfort. Typically they're tired. They don't know how to put their self to sleep. So what you're doing is trying to help them learn how to do it themselves. But my point is, it can be a very uncomfortable process. For some people, they say, oh, in 3 days, my kid made some change. Some people, it's 2 weeks. And then some people like me, here I am being honest, Will and I, we've been approaching this, I don't know, for a couple of weeks now. And if I'm honest, I'm the one that's regressing. Like I was just mentioning, Will is more, my husband, he's more kind of like, okay, Brittany, like, we have to do it. Like, just let him cry. And there are times where I can, but I'm actually causing regression because I can't always do that. Sometimes when he's crying, it puts me in a state of like, I can't take it. Like it just really frazzles me emotionally, and I don't feel comfortable continuing to let him cry. Quick sidebar for us. He has asthma. Quest was diagnosed with asthma at 8 months. So crazy. But our son has asthma, so like I have anxiety surrounding like him getting too worked up emotionally, you know? Then he's hyperventilating and all of that stuff, and you know that could be a part of it. It also was really hard to sleep train my daughter. She's almost 3 and she sleeps through the night now. It's no issue, and I can't wait till we get to that point with Quest. And I know it will happen, but once again, I say all of this just to serve up some positivity out in this internet world, and some encouragement to say if you're going through sleep training and you're having a hard time, that's completely normal. It's okay. It's really hard. Like it's not just super easy. And maybe it's super easy to some people, but it's just not for all. And that's okay. Feel free to reach out to me. You can comment. You can, reach out to me any which way you see fit. And I'm always here to talk and, just have conversations where people feel like they may want to. So I would love for you to subscribe. Thanks for taking the time to watch my video. I'm Brittany, and this is Brit's tip number 28. Thank you. Have a good day.